Today, we're diving into something that affects every single one of us every single day, but we rarely talk about it. We are talking about decisions, or more specifically, unmade decisions. You know the feeling when you walk into your closet and see those 3 bags of clothes you've been meaning to donate for the past 6 months, or when you open your email and there's 4,700 unread messages staring back at you. Or when you stand in front of the pantry at 5 p.m., absolutely paralyzed about what to make for dinner again. Yeah, that feeling of having to make this decision, it is causing your stress bucket to overflow on the daily, every day. And here's what most of us don't realize. Every unmade decision in your life is actively adding stress to your body right now as we speak. So today I want to share with you how unmade decisions are literally keeping your nervous system in a state of chronic stress, what the science says about this, what the Bible teaches us about this, and most importantly, how knowing your core values can help you make decisions that actually reduce your stress level instead of creating more. So grab your coffee, settle in. Let's talk about how we can empty that stress bucket one decision at a time. Hey mama, are you overwhelmed by your full, blessed life? Do you feel stuck in the messy, mundane middle? Then I'm so glad you're here to take a breath. Hey, I'm Shan, RN, holistic wellness coach, and a mom to 4 that went from perfectionism, control, and lots of anxiety to intentionally living through simple solutions and so much peace. If you are done with the stressed out life, hot mess express type of motherhood, then heat up that coffee again and let's live holistically well in the middle. Let's go. Okay, let's picture this. You have an invisible bucket that you carry around all day, and every single stressor, big or small, drops into that bucket. An argument with your husband, that's a drop. Your toddler having a meltdown in Target, that's a drop. Several of them. Running late to pick up your kids, that's more drops. Thinking about when you have to work next, more drops. But here is what we miss. Unmade decisions are constantly dripping into that bucket. Drip, drip, drip. All day long behind the scenes. That pile of mail on the counter you keep walking past, drip every time you see it. The text message you've been meaning to respond to for 3 days, drip. The doctor's appointment you need to schedule, drip. The decision about whether to say yes to the volunteer opportunity at church, drip. What to make for dinner tonight, tomorrow, this week, drip, drip, drip. By the end of the day, mama, your bucket is overflowing. And then we wonder why we're snapping at our kids, why we can't sleep at night, why we're exhausted, even though we didn't really do much today. We don't feel even productive, but we know we're exhausted. The truth is, you've been carrying a weight of hundreds of unmade decisions in your bucket, and your body has actually been responding to every single one of them. Let's talk about the science, because I think when we understand what's actually happening in our bodies, it becomes so much easier to actually take this seriously. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, in his groundbreaking book, The Body Keeps the Score, explains how our bodies hold on to stress and trauma. He writes about how unresolved issues, things we haven't processed, decisions we haven't made, literally get stored in our nervous system. They get stored in our cells. Here's what happens physiologically when you have unmade decisions stacking up. First, your brain is constantly working in the background. Even when you're not actively thinking about that pile of paperwork or those unanswered emails, your subconscious mind is. It is running all the programs. It's like having 47 tabs open on your computer. Everything slows down. Even though I know that happens, I still have about 47 tabs open on my computer. But your mental bandwidth gets consumed by these open loops. What we want to do is close the loops. Okay, so second, your nervous system can't fully relax. Every unmade decision signals to your body that there's something unfinished, something potentially threatening. So your body interprets this as danger, right? And so you stay in this low-level state of fight or flight all the time, even when you were trying to rest. Research in decision fatigue shows that we have limited capacity for decision-making each day. That's why we're fatigued. Our capacity for it is so low. So studies by Roy Baumeister found that making decisions actually depletes our glucose levels and our willpower. But here's the twist. Avoiding decisions doesn't save that energy. Instead, the unmade decision creates a constant cognitive load that drains us even more. Okay, there's a lot going on here physiologically, but third, your cortisol levels, they stay elevated. Cortisol, we know, is our stress hormone. It's supposed to spike when we face a threat, then come back down when the threat passes. But when you have dozens or hundreds of unmade decisions floating around in your life, your cortisol never fully comes down. You are staying in a chronic state of stress. And then what happens? Chronic stress leads to chronic inflammation, leads to chronic disease, gut issues, sleep problems, anxiety, depression, weakened immune system, weight gain, especially around the middle, so much more. It leads to disease. The body keeps the score, mama. Your body is tracking every single unmade decision, even when your conscious mind or your feet have moved on. So let me share with you something vulnerable. This is my story, the Candida recovery story. And about 2 years ago, I was dealing with Candida overgrowth. Well, for the span of about 2 years. And if you've been through this, you know, it's not just uncomfortable, it's completely consuming. For months, I was making decision after decision about my body. What should I eat? What supplements should I take? Which herbs? How much? When? What about this protocol versus that protocol? What about what that doctor said versus this doctor? Should I try this new thing everyone's talking about? I mean, it was every day, all day long. Every single day, I was filled with decisions about my health. And you know what? I eventually did recover. I followed a protocol. I chose one. I did the thing, and my body healed from the Candida. But here's what I realized. I couldn't take one more decision about my body. I was decision fatigued to the point of breakdown. The stress of making constant decisions about what I ate, with the supplements, the herbs, all of it, was keeping me from fully healing. I felt for the longest time I was partly healed. So the moment I stopped making all those decisions and fully rested, fully, soul, mind, body, for an extended period of time, that is when I fully, finally, truly healed. So fast forward a bit, and several friends came to me with a health challenge. They wanted to lose weight, get healthier, and they wanted me to join them. And you know what? I was halfway in. I genuinely wanted to lose the extra pounds I'd put in over the last 2 years of dealing with this Candida. I had a real goal, but I could not take one more decision. I could not put that stress on my body again. Do you hear me? The stress of the decision making was more harmful than the extra weight. And I came to that realization. My friends were all coming up with elaborate plans of action, tracking the macros, these workout plans, these meal prep, all of it. And my mentor asked me point blank, what are you going to decide to do? I needed to make a decision, but this time I was going to make it differently. I thought about my core values, and one of my core values is peace. So I asked myself, what is the most peaceful decision I can make that will still get me towards my goal? I'm a coach, for goodness sake. I'm all about accomplishing goals, but I knew I had to do it with peace. And that's when the power of 3 came to me as the solution, as the decision. It is 1 can of sparkling protein that has 40 grams of protein in it, 3 times a week. Lift 3 times a week. That's not a strenuous schedule. And then eat 3 meals a day that have 30 grams of protein or more. That's it. Simple, peaceful, aligned with who I am and what my body needed. I wasn't following someone else's complicated plan. I wasn't making 1,000 micro decisions every day. I made one decision. I will go forward with the power of 3. And then the decision was made. I knew I had 3 cans to drink that week. I knew I had to plan 3 workouts. Done. And then I planned out my high protein meals, which was already a part of my life. This decision aligned with my core value of peace, and I just followed it. And you know what? It worked. Not just for the weight loss, but for my nervous system. My stress bucket had space again. So here's the principle that changed everything for me, and I pray it changes everything for you too. When we know our core values, we can make decisions with confidence. I love this quote, and I'm not sure who said it, but I will continue to say it probably every day. Decisions can be made in the moment when devotion is decided in advance. Let me say it again. Decisions can be made in the moment when devotion is made in advance. I had already decided what my being, my whole being was devoted to, what my core values are, which are connected to who I am, my identity, which are peace, wisdom, encouragement, intentionality, prayer, and joy and connection. These aren't just nice words on a vision board. These are filtered through which I make every decision in my life. So when I was faced with this health decision and this health goal, I didn't have to agonize over it. I didn't have to research 17 different programs or compare myself to what my friends were doing. I simply asked, what aligns with my core values? And it popped out that the core value of peace would not have been accomplished with another decision. I filtered the options through my core values and came to a simple plan, the power of 3. This is why I'm so passionate about helping moms identify their core values, because every decision creates a nervous system stress response in your body. We are making these decisions all day long, and we're accumulating stress all day long. But when you know your core values, decision-making becomes so much simpler, so much more peaceful. Instead of decision fatigue, you have decision clarity. Instead of stress, you have alignment. And instead of overflowing your stress bucket, you have space to breathe. So the Bible also gives us a very powerful example of what happens when we run and avoid decisions. Remember, I mentioned that if we avoid our decisions, it does more harm to our bodies. So let me refer to the story of Jonah. Remember, God called Jonah to go to Nineveh, and this huge city filled with people who didn't know God and were doing bad things. And God wanted Jonah to preach to them, to call them into repentance. And this was Jonah's purpose. It was part of his identity. His identity was leading him to this purpose, but he didn't like it. He didn't want it. He ran. He literally got on a boat going in the opposite direction. Why? Because he was afraid. He had fear. He didn't want to face those people. He didn't want that responsibility. He probably didn't think he could do it. He made a decision based solely on fear instead of faith. He ran from his identity and his purpose. And where did that decision to avoid God's call, that choice, land him? Of course, in the belly of a fish for 3 days. Can you imagine the stress, the darkness, the absolute crisis of being swallowed alive when you are the one who ran from who you were created to be? This is not God's plan for you to be in a belly of a whale, but you ran from his plan and you made poor choices. But here's what I love most about this story. Even in the belly of the fish, it wasn't too late. Jonah prayed, he repented, and God gave him another chance. Then Jonah finally decided, after all the stress and this major crash and burn experience, right? Complete burnout. He chose faith over fear. He followed God's call and he stepped into his identity and purpose. He went to Nineveh and the entire city repented. He helped Nineveh make the most crucial decision of their lives, which was to believe in the one and only Almighty God. One man's decision to finally align with his identity, his core values, who he is, led an entire city to being saved. Mama, what decision are you running from? What is God calling you to that you are just avoiding? Avoiding because of fear? What purpose is sitting inside your heart and it's not been decided on? It's an unmade decision and it's adding stress to your bucket every single day. What dream is inside of you? You know you're made for this, or you have this dream that you want to do someday, and that someday is an unmade decision. The belly of the fish is a real place. It's called burnout. It's called anxiety. It's called chronic stress and inflammation, and that feeling of being completely overwhelmed. But it's not too late. Just like Jonah, you can make the decision today to choose faith over fear, to step into your identity and your calling, and to live it out on purpose. Let's bring this down real practical, okay? I just gave you a super serious example and story, and leading into your unmade decisions about your dreams and your purpose. But let's get to clutter, because this is where this topic originated. I was talking with some clients about the clutter in their home. They wanted help. How do I get rid of this clutter? And I told them, you know what? Every item is an unmade decision. And the unmade decisions are piling into clutter, into piles in your house. And that's a lot of stress. Every time you look at this pile, you feel the stress. That pile of clothes in your bedroom that you keep stepping over, it's unmade decisions. The overflowing email inbox, unmade decisions. The junk drawer, let's be honest, junk room, filled with things you don't know what to do with, unmade decisions. Ours is like our little mudroom area. All unmade decisions. They're sitting there. The toys your kids have outgrown but you haven't sorted through, or the clothes, unmade decisions. The pile of papers, unmade decisions. We could go on and on. And every single item that doesn't have a place when you walk past it every day without dealing with it is an unmade decision adding stress to your nervous system. Here is the thing about clutter. Just its presence creates stress. Studies show that visual clutter increases your cortisol levels, especially in women. Our brains are constantly processing everything in our environment and the chaos around us. Where should this go? What should we do with this? It's how we're wired. But here's the good news. Every decision you make, every item you sort through and decide on, it empties your stress bucket. You don't have to do it all at once. In fact, I recommend you do not tackle everything in one long, exhausting weekend. I've tried that. That creates more stress. Instead, just make one decision today. Just one. Pick up one item and ask yourself, is this a heck yes, a heck no, or not right now? Heck yes means you love it, you use it, you need it. It stays, it gets a proper home. Heck no means it goes to the trash, it gets donated, you give it to a friend. You make the decision and you remove it from your space. And not right now means maybe it's a seasonal, or maybe you need more information before deciding. You put it in a specific decide later box with a date on it, and you process it later. But you make a decision because every decision you make creates space in your stress bucket. So how do we actually do this? How do we start making decisions that reduce stress instead of creating more? Number one, know your core values. You cannot make aligned decisions if you don't know what you're aligning with. Take time, real intentional time, to identify your core values. What matters most to you? Not what matters most to your mom or your best friend or the influencer on Instagram. What matters to you? For me, again, I shared mine with you. Yours might be different, and that's perfect. You need to know them. Step 2 is to filter decisions through your core values. When you're faced with a decision, big or small, ask yourself, which option aligns with my core values? Should I say yes to that opportunity? Does it align with my values? Would it compromise them? Should I buy that thing? Does it support my value of stewardship? Should I take on that project at work? Does it align with my value of growth? Whatever it is. Step 3 is make the decision and move on. Here's the thing about decisions. Most of them are not life or death. We have been so accustomed to working in the hospital and working with life and death situations that we treat some of our everyday decisions so seriously. They're not. You can make a decision. And if it turns out wrong, it's okay. You can make a different decision later. We have trained our nervous system to act like we are in fight or flight all the time and saving lives all the time. So this is going to be something you have to train your nervous system to readjust to. The stress isn't making a perfect decision. The stress is not deciding. So make the decision, choose with your values, and then release it. Don't second guess yourself for the next 3 weeks. Trust that you made the best decision with the information that you had and the values that you hold. Step number 4 is notice the peace. When you start making decisions based on your identity, something beautiful happens, and it's called peace. It comes over you, not because your life suddenly becomes easy or problem-free, but because you're living in alignment. You're not carrying the weight of all these unmade decisions anymore. You're not in the belly of a fish running from who you were created to be, your identity. You're walking your purpose. You're making decisions that honor who you are. And that creates peace that passes understanding. So here's my challenge for you today. Make one decision. Just one. Empty one drop from your stress bucket. Maybe it's scheduling the appointment. Maybe it's responding to that text. Maybe it's dealing with the pile of clutter. Whatever it is, say yes. Make the decision. And if you're sitting here thinking, Shan, I don't even know what my core values are. All right. That is the decision you are making today. You are signing up, booking me for a complimentary stress assessment call. This isn't a sales call. This isn't me pressuring you into some kind of decision. Completely the opposite. This is me sitting down, helping you assess the stress in your life, and most importantly, identifying those core values. Because when you know your core values, decision-making becomes so much easier. You'll have less stress, more peace, and more alignment in your true identity. So go to theshanwright.com/stress assessment call. The link is also in the show notes. So remember, every decision you make based on your identity is a decision for peace. Every unmade decision is a weight you don't have to carry. I encourage you to make a decision today. Until next time, may the God of peace be with you. Shalom, shalom. Hey, Wellness Warrior. I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at @theshanwright so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.